Speaker, but I've got a lot to say.
Go for it.
I think most of it you'll agree with. Please understand, I'm frustrated and I'm angry, but I'm not a radical. And as I get to throw in this raw meat out there to you in a few minutes, the money. If there's anybody here from DHS, I'm clean. I've never even had a traffic ticket. The Constitution, I know this sounds silly, but and as a general matter, of course, people aren't going to do it, but have y'all read the Constitution recently? It's not a long document. Every power that the federal government gets comes from the Constitution. And these guys that wrote the Constitution were bright. They made funny S's, but they were bright. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, titled Powers of the Congress. And when I read that section of the Constitution, there's nowhere I see that the United States government or Congress has a right to invest our money in any private industry, to determine what the pay scale is going to be in any industry, to retroactively try to tax somebody at 90%. The Constitution is and that's one of the issues here. And you know, we've got the money issue, but what we've really got is a federal government that is out of control. The interesting thing about the Constitution is it's an exclusionary document. So basically, you've got the 18 things that the Congress can do. And then in the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, what it says is any powers not specifically expressly authorized to the federal government, whether it's the Congress or the executive branch, any powers not so granted shall be granted to the states and the people. That's not complicated. It's not complicated. And I'm not defending Bush or the Republicans or anybody else, but the maximum deficit that we incurred during those years was $400 billion. That's 400 with a B, billion dollars. We ran essentially over the last, we averaged about $300 billion a year in deficits over the last 6 years. 2009, the projection for 2009, given the administration the benefit of the doubt and using the White House's numbers, $1.75 trillion with a T, trillion dollars. I know that sounds big, but it doesn't sound as big to you as it should. That is 1,750,000 millions. To spend that much money, to have that big a deficit, what we would have to do is cut a check for $200 million an hour starting at New Year's, January the 1st, and continue to pay $200 million an hour until December 31st of that year. How in the world is that sustainable? How in the world could we possibly ever repay that? $200 million an hour for a year, people!
This is the same Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi herself insisted that she be given the U.S. Air Force top-of-the-line C-32 jet for her personal use. She ridiculed those execs for flying their private jets to Washington, using the funds from their company to pay for the fuel for those aircrafts and the pilots and so forth. But yet she travels around the country in the top of the line United States Air Force C-32 jet provided by us, the taxpayers, and it's all paid for by you and me.
Flies back and forth. Glenn Beck on the radio today said that any cause worth doing is worth sacrifice, and he asked his audience if they were prepared to give up everything in order to take their country back. That's a question you need to ask yourself. Now, I don't think it's going to be required that we have to give up everything, but we need to be prepared to give up something in order to take our country back. Given the choice that we had in the last presidential election, I'm actually glad Barack Obama won. And I'll tell you why. They say his is a historic presidency, and I agree with them. But the history books are going to write that he was the one who ushered in the end of the 60-year socialist movement that this country has been going through. Because like when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, he has bombed our country, and he has awakened the sleeping giant. He has awakened all of us. There are millions of us in this country doing what we're doing right now.
Cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away.
Stand up if you're proud.
Be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
Yes, we can take this thing back.
The men who died, who gave them rights to me, and I gladly stand next to you and deliver still today. Till we go down, I love this land. God bless the USA.
Thank y'all.